Okay, guys, so today things are going to be a little different because I found a content creator who claims he's a big Resident Evil fan, and I really doubt he is. I think he has first degree brain damage. So you've probably heard of this YouTuber. He goes by the name of Underthemayo. You know, the most cantankerous little shit you will ever meet on the internet. So let me give you some backstory on who Underthemayo is. He's pretty much a Doom player. Well, not a Doom player. He's more so of a Doom fanboy. Now, let that be kind of a warning of what you're getting into, because somebody who's a Doom fanboy should not be talking about stuff like this. And you've probably heard of him. You've probably seen a few of his reviews, and if you have, then you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, oh lord, wait until you see this. We'll get right into it with how Resident Evil didn't save, or how Resident Evil 4 didn't save the franchise.
He got paid. There is a narrative that has existed for, God, almost 20 years now, that Resident Evil 4, the original on GameCube, released in January of 2005, saved Resident Evil from irrelevancy. The dying survival horror franchise needed an injection of new blood, and Resident Evil 4, which seemed to be following more conventional survival horror gameplay.
Okay, a little bit more backstory. So, if you're wondering why he said Resident Evil 4 saved the franchise through gritted fucking teeth, it's because he is a stern believer that the fixed camera angles and tank controls were superior to the new gen stuff. Now, Mayo, if you watch this, don't fucking say you don't. There are several videos where you said that you would love to see a game in that style, and you've talked about how fun it was for the atmosphere, etc., etc. Pretty much this motherfucker wants to play Resident Evil through a Jackson Pollock painting, and it pretty much shows when we get into the rest of this fucking video.
The time revolutionary over-the-shoulder camera style came in and saved the day, jettisoning the outdated and stale formula and presentation of the originals, replacing it with a much-needed, exhilarating roller coaster action experience that kept the series alive. It was only because Resident Evil 4 so boldly changed directions that Resident Evil was not doomed to die a slow, agonizing death like its sister series Silent Hill. But is this really the whole story, or is there more to this tale that seems to be forgotten to history, or simply omitted by those that propagate the narrative?
He's saying this like it's not a fact that Resident Evil 4 did save the series. And he talks about the GameCube version, by the way. No, Resident Evil in general saved the series. It's been released and remade how many fucking times? I mean, come on, Mayo. I feel like even at the start of this, you're being disingenuous, especially with your wording of things. Like, did you not hear how sarcastically he said, save the day? Like, dude, just admit that you're fucking butthurt that nobody likes your over the fucking overhead camera angles and your tank controls. It's okay, dude, to admit it. Like, believe me. Like, I want a fucking Metal Gear Solid game that's like that again. I'm never gonna fucking get it, though, so I just live with it. Like, come on, man.
On the surface, it's easy to see how this version of history spreads and continues to this day. All we have to do is look at the sales history of
Uh-oh, so he's only showing half of that. So here is the same list from fandom.net, but listing Resident Evil 4. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this in full is because in this video, Mayo never shows, to my knowledge, because this is my second time watching it just to make sure, he has never shown the entire thing accurately. He's only cherry-picked. See, this is something that Mayo likes to do a lot. He likes to cherry-pick certain things, and then fuck all explains anything else. So, there you go. Here's your other half context. And you could see that he's... I could end this video now. Like, look at the sales RE4 got, like. You could see right away he's fucking talking shit if he thinks that this game didn't save the franchise. Like, seriously.
Looking at the original trilogy, we see sales of 5 to 6 million for RE1 and RE2, and a noticeable dip with RE3. Is that our first sign that the series was on its way to an early death?
Let me think.
Yes!
I don't think so. RE3 is a quality title, and the favorite of many fans, like myself. And though it was originally conceived as a spin-off, they soon realized the potential the game had and gave it the well-earned official number in its title. While looking at the release date coming just 1 year after RE2 might lead you to think it was rushed.
So, what's his source for that information about it being a spin-off and then it got the well-deserved 3? His source? Trust me, bro. Like, Mayo, you need to cite your sources. You can't just say something and then it's automatically true, because then people are going to assume that you're making it the fuck up, like what I'm doing now. So, could you do me a favor and actually source it? And if you can't, then shut the fuck up. Because he likes to speak for people too, by the way. It's a many fan favorite, which he's not wrong in this instance. Like, Resident Evil 3 is like a fucking banger game, old and new version. But he hates the new version, he likes the old version. So another thing about Mayo that you all kind of need to know about is that he's a serial shitlord of the worst kind when it comes to reviews. And don't take my word like for it. Here is a assortment of YouTubers who have also disagreed with Mayo.
And I just gotta point out that in every clip of Ultra Kill shown, every single frame of footage is of someone using the starting pistol. Not a weapon combo or a projectile boost, just the piercer.
Mayo, stop trying to reignite old drama. It has been a year since you reviewed Ultra Kill and pissed off the fan base. This isn't funny, dude. It's pretty pathetic. Like, stop. Just let it go, man. Jeez.
Trepang 2 is a game I have a lot to say about. Fear, the game it's largely based on, is one of my all-time favorites. I've been anxiously awaiting the release of Trepang 2 ever since the first demo, which I did not play. I saw it, immediately knew it was right up my alley, and decided to wait until it came out. I'm glad I did, because the initial joy of returning to Fear's combat does a lot for this game. If I had already spoiled it by playing the demo, I think I would be less satisfied with it. Because I am kinda unsatisfied.
Excuse me, what the fuck? So he says that he is glad that he didn't play the demo, because he would be less satisfied with the game because of it. Yet then, he says that he is dissatisfied with the game. You can't be glad to not be dissatisfied about something you're dissatisfied with. That's not how it works, my man.
The main focus of my channel is gameplay. I do care about the other stuff, but you'll notice that a lot of my videos will only briefly touch on things like visuals, music, story, and all the stuff that isn't directly tied to how the game feels to play.
And if you did the slightest bit of research, you would know that Devil May Cry 5 uses dynamic music based on how good you play the game.
That's why I generally don't call my videos reviews. I'm not here to examine every aspect of the game equally.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in at this part. So he's just admitted there in that last clip that he's not like reviewing a game, yet he's giving criticisms and critiques about it, and in his titles he's openly stated them as reviews. So Mayo, let's go off your word. So you're not technically reviewing the game. So why the fuck are you talking about it then, you fucking indignant moron? Like, seriously, how can you, like, why do you have such a large following? How can anyone take you seriously? If any developer listened to you, they would be bankrupt in a week. At best, they'd probably be in business for 3 days. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? So here's the thing with Mayo. After that evidence of him saying that he's not a reviewer, but then clearly having 2 videos as reviews right next to each other, I know exactly what he is, because we here at the SimKiller channel have seen this type of person many a times when we were dealing with commentary drama. He is grifting. Notice how he triggers fan bases and says deliberate things that he knows that will piss people off. It's so he can gain views. He's not a game reviewer. He doesn't give a fuck. He's doing this to get as many views as he can in an attempt to annoy people. Like, come on, dude. Like, you need to be better, Mayo. How the fuck have I figured that out? Like, I bet he's gonna say, if he sees this, I bet you anything he's gonna say, well, SimKiller, that's not the case. Because if you look at it, like, motherfucker, I'm not gonna look at it in any way. I've seen your type before. I've dealt with you countless times when it came to commentary drama. You're fucking grifting because you know how to piss people off. It's quite impressive on the level that you do it, actually. I'll give you props there.
Horror games have a problem. A note problem. A memo problem. I started noticing it back with the first Amnesia game in 2010. I kept coming across all these notes, to the point where it started feeling like a serious interruption to the pacing of gameplay. To be fair, Amnesia is at least courteous enough to warn you that it wants you to think of it more as a story than a game.
That's funny. He started to only notice this video game No Problem with Amnesia, a game that is not tailored to his style because he's a Doom player. That's funny, Mayo, because isn't it coincidental that the original Resident Evil games that you hold on a pedestal so much has a bunch of notes in it? So what makes Amnesia different from Resident Evil? There's no action in it, is there? See, if he was introduced to Call of Duty first, he'd only be fucking playing that, is the point I'm making. He doesn't know what makes a good horror game. If he did, he wouldn't be fucking saying this because it's basic world building, which we will discuss in a bit.
But there has to be a better way to tell a story than asking someone to read pages of notes every couple minutes. And ever since that game, I've become hyper aware of the note reading phenomenon plaguing my favorite genre. Outlast, notes everywhere. Tormented Souls, notes in seemingly every room, filling out multiple people's diary entries across decades.
So, once again, notice how he doesn't say anything about Resident Evil, but he talks about Outlast and Tormented Souls. Isn't that coincidental that he doesn't bring up his all-time favourite franchise, Resident Evil, which also has a bunch of notes strewn about the place? And Mayo, don't say that it's different, because if that's the case, this video of yours that I'm reviewing here should not have been uploaded, because it is a part of the overall franchise, reading and world building. You'd have to be a certain kind of hypocrite to say that what I'm saying is wrong, Mayo, because you have to realise that what you have made here is a contradiction to not only your favourite series, but into horror games in general. And also, need to bring this up again, he's a self-admitted Doom player, so what the fuck would he know about horror?
Signalis. Good lord, don't get me started on Signalis. One of my favorite new survival horror games, but it's not uncommon to find 2, even 3 notes in a single room.
So who wants to tell him that Resident Evil has a bunch of those too? Like, Mayo, could you stay consistent for me, buddy? Like, could you do that for me? Could you just stay consistent on what you're talking about instead of, like, contradicting yourself on every step of the way, dude? Alright guys, so listen, I'm going to cut this here. This is part 1. There will be a part 2 on this because there's a lot of stuff about Mayo that needs to be covered. So yeah, this is part 1. And in the next episode, I'm going to have my editor, Dino, with me to critique him even further because she knows a lot about games and how they work too. So we're going to get into it on that one. Until then, stay tuned.